The complexity of our Earth and universe is underscored by the fact that science's most brilliant minds have been puzzling over its mysteries for lifetimes. For every amazing and jaw-dropping discovery that is made, hundreds more lurk beneath the surface of our knowledge, just waiting for the next great mind to unveil the solution behind its mystery. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be looking at incredible discoveries. Scientists dig the deepest ocean hole in history. It is very common for scientists wishing to study the geological and natural history of an area to take soil samples from the Earth. In some cases, an entire core from a very deep section is taken in order to study how the core composition and geography changed over time as a result of climate change and environmental factors. Usually, these experiments are carried out by taking core samples of glaciers or tundra areas. However, this method becomes slightly more difficult when the area in question is the Japan Trench, a region off of the Japanese coast where the Pacific Plate and the Okhotsk Plate converge. The movement of these plates along the trench is responsible for the vast majority of tectonic activity in the region, especially earthquakes and tsunamis along the coast of Japan. Notably, the ongoing subduction of the Pacific Plate beneath the Okhotsk Plate was responsible for the devastating 9.1 magnitude Tohoku earthquake and tsunami that occurred in 2011, which caused devastating damage to the Fukushima nuclear power plant. Scientists wishing to study the tectonic movement of these plates and the resulting earthquake history of the region needed to take samples from the epicenter of the Tohoku earthquake for analysis. However, as the epicenter was over 8,000 meters below sea level, scientists were forced to use the best technology available to remove a sample core from such a deep area, as the logistics of power, pressure, and depth are obstacles that require incredibly precise calculations to overcome. However, the researchers were able to embark on the project after months of preparation, and the resulting 37-meter core, already 8,000 meters below sea level, was by far the deepest ocean hole ever dug. To accomplish this feat, researchers aboard the Kamei research vessel sent a massive drill known as a giant piston corer down to the sea floor, waiting almost 3 hours before the drill finally reached the bottom. Once here, they were able to extract the sediment core. They then had to wait several hours as the drill slowly rose the 8,000 meters back to the ship. The scientists' excitement to study the sediment samples is twofold. First, they hope to gain a greater understanding of the history of centuries of tectonic activity in the region, as well as to be able to expand knowledge the world over of what the seabed holds so deep below the surface. The previous record holder for the deepest ocean hole ever dug was a 1978 sample taken from the Mariana Trench, which was drilled to about 7,000 meters below sea level. The Japan Trench sample significantly beat out this record by around 1,000 meters, but still fell short of the deepest hole ever dug on land, which was the Kola Super Deep borehole in Russia. However, the borehole was dug over a significantly larger amount of time, taking 12 years to drill over 12,000 meters into the Kola Peninsula for samples of continental crust. Scientists suggest that Octopus could be aliens. When talk turns to potential extraterrestrial life on Earth, most minds immediately jump to conspiracy theorists and science fiction plots. Few expect to read findings from the scientific community hinting at alien life. Yet that is exactly what has recently come to light, and not in the way that you would think. A scientific paper published in 2018 in the journal Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology attempts to explain the origins of life on Earth, and makes some startling hypotheses about the octopus, suggesting that the unusual creature possesses a genome that may have gotten its start from somewhere outside of Earth. When studying the development of species, the octopus presents a unique set of problems, which is what has prompted scientists to look beyond Earth for answers. For most species, distinctive and especially unusual features evolved slowly over millions of years, and this progression can be more or less tracked through the species. However, the striking features of cephalopods, such as their large brains and sophisticated color and shape-changing abilities, arrived relatively suddenly in the evolutionary gene pool. A huge leap such as this is especially unlikely in the more advanced characteristics of a highly developed species. These traits burst onto the scene hundreds of millions of years ago in what is known as the Cambrian explosion, where several modern-day animal groups suddenly began to exist in a form recognizable today. Nobody knows what exactly led to this event, although there are several theories. One possible explanation, specifically mentioned in the paper with regards to cephalopods, revolves around the cryopreserving ability of space and suggests that a piece of space rock or comet hurtling towards Earth could have contained viable specimens of an early form of fertilized squid or octopus eggs, and released its contents as it crashed into our atmosphere, effectively merging extraterrestrial genes with the genomes on Earth. Another hypothesizes that alien viruses crashed to Earth in a similar manner and infected the genomes of a primitive version of the squid and caused the strange evolution into what we know as octopus today. This is not the first time such a theory has been suggested with regards to the evolution of life on Earth, as it is occasionally brought up as a potential explanation for the currently genetically unexplainable. However, such a theory rests entirely upon the assumption that life does exist elsewhere in the cosmos and that these life forms could have been transported across the vastness of space on a comet until they reached Earth. Understandably, hypotheses of this nature are impossible to prove, and will likely remain just a hypothesis for the years to come. But the idea that we could be sharing our planet with creatures evolved from extraterrestrials is fascinating. Eye of Sauron discovered underwater. Sometimes some of the most interesting things are discovered by scientists to have been lurking under our oceans the entire time. In one recent instance, a crew aboard Sauron's research vessel, the RV Investigator, operating a multi-beam sonar, noticed that a strange formation was appearing. The sonar map depicted what turned out to be an ancient volcano resting over 3,000 meters below sea level in the Indian Ocean not far from Christmas Island. The volcano's appearance in the sonar map looked for all the world like the iconic Eye of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and was just as surprising to scientists who had never suspected that such a massive formation could be hidden there. The eye structure and the neighbouring seamounts make up a caldera, which is an oval depression in the sea floor caused by the collapse of empty chambers at the base of a volcano. This specific formation consisted of a 6.2 km by 4.8 km caldera extending 300 meters deep, with a relatively new peak rising another 300 meters high from the center of the eye. Amazingly, this unexpected, ancient undersea volcano was just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Just a short distance away, the seafloor gave way to a second underwater mountain dotted with volcanic cones similar to the one in the middle of the Eye of Sauron, as well as a larger flat seamount. The researchers who discovered them dubbed them Barad-dûr and Ered-Lithu, respectively, in keeping with the Lord of the Rings theme. Although these names are all in good fun, they are surprisingly appropriate to the shape and composition of the formations, which are part of a seamount cluster that is estimated to be over 100 million years old. Researchers believe that Ered-Lithu once projected from the ocean, albeit during a time so long ago that Antarctica sat next to Australia, and the flat top was created by the erosion of waves over time as the seafloor sank down to its current position. Additionally, although Ered-Lithu and Barad-dûr are likely as old as the surrounding seamounts and are covered with over 100 meters of sand and mud deposited during the intervening years, a caldera that old would have been partially buried by the sediment deposition. Since the Eye of Sauron is still prominent, it's thought that it's a relatively new volcano that has more recently erupted from the sea floor. These structures can help to give scientists and other marine life researchers a better idea of how the Earth's crust formed hundreds of millions of years ago, as well as all of the changes that it has undergone since then. Currently, the old sea floor does not look hundreds of millions of years old and is covered in beautiful sea life and corals. New human species Dragon Man. Whether it be from a caveman movie or an anthropology class, you are likely already familiar with the fact that Homo sapiens are descendants of Neanderthals. And, while it is still true, it seems that there may in fact be a species that replaces Neanderthals as being one step closer to the humans of today. A prehistoric skull found in China is impressively similar to our own, according to researchers, and is likely more closely related to Homo sapiens than Neanderthals. Those studying the skull were amazed by its similarity to our own, with a large head likely containing a similarly large brain and broad jaws and big eyes. In fact, the incredibly well-preserved skull astonished researchers by being the largest skull of the Homo species ever discovered. However, he still had a few primitive qualities mixed in with the more modern that made the skull truly unlike anything the researchers had ever seen. The research team used computer technology to analyze hundreds of individual traits and then create a digital likeness of what the man might have looked like and what region each of his traits most closely related him to. When this skull was combined with a few other odd features in fossils that had been discovered in China, a new human-like species emerged. It seems that this species, dubbed Homo longi, lived and evolved in the same time period that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were evolving and walking the earth, and astonishingly dated the common ancestor between humans and Neanderthals to only 1 million years ago. This is 400,000 years earlier than previous estimations. As amazing as these findings may be, there are some researchers that are not convinced that the skull truly is a member of its own species, and are instead suspicious that it could be a Denisovan fossil, believing that too much credence has been given to certain features, resulting in misidentification and mistaken conclusions. The Denisovans were a less populous human ancestor that evolved in Asia around the time, and some researchers doubt the findings of the original study, citing instead that they see links between the features of the skull found and those of the Denisovans. The skull, regardless of its origins, has a rather impressive story. Found by a Chinese labourer in 1933, he buried it in an abandoned well rather than give it to his boss, who was a Japanese invader. From there, it remained buried for the next 85 years, a fact which likely saved it, as an immense amount of tumult and the Cultural Revolution occurred during that time frame. He told his family of the hiding place, and upon his death in 2018, the family removed the skull from the well and donated it to the Geoscience Museum of Hebei. Pingualuit Crater Discovery. In Quebec, Canada, lies a mysterious crater dubbed Pingualuit, which is the Inuit word for pimple. This crater is not only impressive in size at 3.44 kilometers, but Pingualuit Crater Lake is rumored to contain the purest fresh water on Earth. It is also one of the deepest lakes on the North American continent. According to a freshwater lake expert, the crater lakes hold such volumes of water in comparison to the surrounding glacial lakes that they are slower to respond to the temperature changes. Pingualuit Crater Lake is always the last to freeze in winter and the last to melt in the spring. In addition to temperature, wind can also affect which lakes freeze and melt fastest or slowest. The Pingualuit crater is an impact crater formed by a fallen meteorite or asteroid in the Pleistocene era, approximately 1.4 million years ago. It was discovered on the 20th of June 1943 by a United States Air Force plane. The Royal Canadian Air Force also surveyed this area in 1948, although their photographs would not be available to the public until 1950. An Ontario diamond prospector named Frederick W. Chubb became fascinated by the photographs of the crater. He sought help from geologist Ben Mean of the Royal Ontario Museum. At first, Chubb hoped that the crater was part of a volcano. Extinct volcanoes often contain diamond deposits that he would have been able to mine. However, what he and Mean found was that the crater resulted from the impact of a meteorite crashing into Earth instead. The two men dubbed the crater Chubb Crater and the nearby lake Museum Lake. These names persisted until Mean went out on another expedition to the crater in 1954. On that expedition, the crater was rechristened Cratère de Nouveau Québec, or New Quebec Crater, at the behest of the Quebec Geographic Board. In recent years, further expeditions to the Pingualuit crater have uncovered the records of two separate geological periods in the sediment cores from the bottom of the lake. Scientists hope that further samples taken from the lake and crater might yield breakthroughs in the realm of climate change. But what do you make of these discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.